Welcome everyone to the Analytics Breakthrough webinar series. In this installment of our webinar series, we are honored to be joined by Jim Sterne. Jim is a contributor to the Google Analytics Breakthrough book. We are re-recording this intro because there was an issue with the first part of the recording of the actual live webinar, but just to walk through the intro again. The webinar series centers around the Google Analytics Breakthrough book, which was recently published by eNOR authors Feras and Eric, and with contributions from everyone on the eNOR team and also from our industry friends, experts such as Jim Sterne. Jim is really a renowned author, really a super well-known, extremely respected figure within the analytics industry. We were really very happy that he was able to contribute to the book, and we were very happy that he was able to join us for the webinar. Just a little bit more background about Jim, author of many books, including most recent, the Devil's Data Dictionary. Jim is also the founder of eMetrics and really just an ongoing pillar in the analytics community worldwide. There was an opportunity to ask questions. We were able to take questions from the participants during the session. Again, this is a pre-recorded intro because the actual intro from the live session, there was an issue with the recording. Now, Jim's contribution in the book is the three masters of analytics. So bringing up the book, this is Jim's contribution. So Jim briefly addressed who are the three masters of analytics. So whoever pays the bills, obviously whoever is funding the analytics practice directly or indirectly, that individual or those individuals do need to be satisfied in terms of what requirements they are seeking. Your end customer does need to also be served by your analytics work in terms of providing a better end user experience. And the perhaps most important master, and I believe that Jim emphasized this, is your own intellectual curiosity, that you must serve that master in pursuing analytics, and you must satisfy the curiosity of using data to drive better experiences. So I believe that I hope that I did a good job in summarizing Jim's contribution, which he reviewed. This is obviously available in full form within the book, and along the lines of the first master, who pays the bills. I did ask Jim about the hippo concept, the highest paid person's opinion, and I asked Jim if he also saw that concept might be challenged now and might be becoming somewhat outdated, and Jim did agree that the concept of the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, just prevailing because that person has opinions that are not data-driven, that concept is becoming outdated, and the people who are in the positions of being highest paid and having the most authority are increasingly in those positions because they are using data to make better decisions. So the hippo prevalence is yielding towards data-driven decision makers, which we are all happy about. And referring to the intellectual curiosity, we were also speaking with Jim about the traits that a analyst really needs to have to be successful as an analyst, and that is where we pick up in our live discussion. So apologies for the lack of the live intro. There are lots of good nuggets in the brief time that Jim is speaking. There are really a lot of good, important, high-level and actionable takeaways. So please enjoy the rest of the recording with Jim and Feras and myself. Thank you for listening.
They measured IQ level, and they took two teams. One was made up of all extremely high IQ folks, and the other one was a mix of high and lower IQ. And they gave them the same problems to solve and said, come up with as many ways to solve these problems as possible. And the diverse team came up with more solutions than the really intelligent people because of the diversity, because they came at it from different angles. So I'm going to apply that to analytics, where on the one hand, we have the data scientist. This is the classic white lab-coated person who's, think about material science for a minute. There's somebody in a laboratory creating a new type of plastic or a new type of aluminum, and they are working at the molecular level, coming up with a new building material. And that's terrific. But on the far extreme, on the other side, is the architect who's trying to figure out how to build a building. The architect has to understand enough about material sciences to know stress levels and structural integrity and how much material do I need to hold up this skyscraper, but doesn't necessarily understand the molecular construction of it, doesn't need to. And the data scientist is not an architect. They have nothing to do with the art of creating a building. They have nothing to, they know absolutely nothing about local regulations for construction. They don't know anything about whether the plumbing and the electrical have to go in. They're just creating new materials. So okay, let's apply this to analytics. On the science side, we have people writing new algorithms, creating AI systems, inventing machine learning methods that can then be applied by the business people who are trying to do marketing better and create a better customer experience. In between these two is a spectrum of people who are necessary. So we go from the data scientist to the statistician to the data collection people to the analysts to the hub and spoke. We've got the hub of the Analytics Center of Excellence reaching out to a business unit saying, well, your human resources, let me see how we can apply what we've learned and what we've collected to employee satisfaction. You're in marketing. Specifically, you're in social media marketing. Okay, well, let's apply what we know to this specific problem. It's the applied science. So I'm going to take somebody who has deep knowledge about computer science on the one side, and somebody who has a combination of computer science and statistics and business understanding. This is the unicorn in the middle. And then at the far side, we need those hippos who are going to take all of this information. They're the consumers of the analysis, and they are on the hook for making a business decision. All of these people are required to make use of data. So the backgrounds, whether you studied computer science, whether, like me, you got a degree in Shakespeare, whether you are in psychology and you care about usability and customer experience, or you are in merchandising and you are thinking about how to best represent your products, all of these backgrounds have to come together to get the most out of analytics. So there's this, again, I'll hark back to the call for diversity. The thing that we need is that everybody in that spectrum be fascinated by problem solving. It's the Sherlock Holmes gene that we're looking for. And if your background is music, That's fine as long as when you look at a data set you go, that's really interesting. If we can know this and this, I wonder what happens if we add in that information, and what if we divide it by Thursday? That's what we're looking for, that innate curiosity that allows us to leverage data across the board.
Jim, along those lines, do you feel that it's necessary in most cases or in all cases to approach data with hypotheses, or do you feel that it is okay some of the time or a lot of the time to make observations within the data and let those initial data observations drive hypotheses for optimization?
Oh, I think it's an absolute combination of both. On the one hand, I'm going to come up with a great idea in the shower in the morning and say, gee, I wonder if we try this test, what would happen? And there's a hypothesis. Let's go find the data that we need and build the test that will prove or disprove, et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, data discovery is all about looking at the data and saying, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I wonder why that is, and start drilling down. Both of those are absolutely viable, valuable, useful, but without a hypothesis, all we're doing is reporting. So whether the hypothesis comes from going to see a blockbuster movie and having this epiphany as I walk out saying, wow, I could apply that to my problem at work, or I'm sorting through the usual data that I deal with every day and I see an outlier and I say, oh, I wonder why that is. Is it a problem with data collection? Did we not clean the data properly? Or is this a new segment and represents a serious business opportunity? That's the curiosity I'm looking for. But where a hypothesis comes from, I don't care. It can come from anywhere, as long as we can compare and contrast to prioritize which hypotheses should be brought forward for testing.
Right, right. And I think that that's actually an interesting point to summarize, that the hypothesis can come from the data itself, or it could come from anywhere. But it is important to approach the data with hypotheses for to drive the optimization.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're just reporting.
Thank you, Jim. One of the questions that are coming out here is, I can read that. This is from Tom. Can you comment on the relationship between a digital analyst and an external agency? What do you think should be the best-in-class relationship, and how they should work with each other? I'm recently appointed as a digital analyst in a Fortune 500 who's not famous for its digital analytics.
Yeah. Well, I think the critical piece to keep in-house is the identification of goals. What are you trying to accomplish? What are you? And from a business perspective, there's only a handful, right? It's raise revenue, lower costs, increase customer satisfaction, or improve capabilities. That's everything else has to kind of roll up to those. How the company is going to achieve those goals is the thing that should be kept close inside the company. Are we going to optimize our advertising? Are we going to create an influencer program through social media? Are we going to spend time improving the shopping cart experience? Those are questions that the business has to decide. Now, where do we go from there? Well, we need to get data. We need to collect the data. Having an outside organization come in to do a data audit is a necessity. It's sort of like if you have an advertising agency and you ask them to report on their own success, if you ask the ad agency to give you the reports on how well your ads are doing, you're going in the wrong direction. So an outside agency, an outside consultancy coming in to do a data audit, the first thing they're going to look at is collection. How, are your tags in decent order? Are they all firing as they should? Are there extra tags left over from the last tool you had? Are you storing and managing and constantly upgraded? Do you have a process in place for collecting and managing your data? That, I would say, really should be an outside group, and it should be something that's done periodically, because data has a way of degrading over time. Then, how do we funnel that data into useful reports? If you have people inside who are good at that, great. If you're going outside, that's fine too. It is a bit of plumbing. It is the mechanics. Now it comes time to do the analysis, and this is where it is really wonderful if you have a talented analyst who belongs to the company, who understands the organization, who can truly relate the data to the problems being solved. That's terrific. On the other hand, if you don't, if you have no team, perfectly valid to go out and find an analysis consultancy, but try to find somebody that you're going to bring in on a long-term contract. This is not a come in and fix our tags or come in and write us a dashboard. This is become part of our team and understand what our business is, understand what our goals are, understand what our priorities are, and help us translate data to business decisions. In an ideal world, that person would be an employee, or that team would be employees of the company. But if you don't have that talent, go out and find those people, but be ready to have them stick with you for a while so they can really understand the data and the culture and the decision-making process. Good question, Tom.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim and Tom. An excellent question. I'll just add, a couple of things from the perspective, where we see the needs are. I think there's a shortage in talent in general, I think, in the industry.
Yes.
And digital analytics, we used to call it web analytics, now it's digital analytics. There are a lot of components, there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle, from mobile to desktop to, obviously, if you're stitching data with different data sources, so there's the whole big data aspect. There's also, social analytics. There's the strategy, what to measure and what matters most and how to slice it and dice it. There's the implementation piece. So I think some of the organizations we come across, they have that understanding and they start to assemble these building blocks, and they do things in-house and they outsource some other pieces. And others, I think they see, let me get an analyst, and then they're going to be these Superman or Superwoman and do A to Z. And I think that there's some education needs to happen for them to see, I think, that the bigger picture. And maybe with some small wins so that you can go and get more budget to hire more people.
That's right.
Jim, somewhat related to this last thread, and we are getting towards the conclusion of our webinar. So I'm going to put out a question that I think might be a tough question, but you can tell us if it's a tough question or not. We've talked about the evolution of web analytics somewhat in the course of the course of our half hour. If we were to, let's say, extrapolate out another 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, where do you see the evolution of the industry continuing, and what do you feel are any new skills or new perspectives that a good, effective analyst should have, if there are any, or if the basic skills and inclinations and intellectual curiosities that have always served analysts, if that is the core that will sustain analysts more or less into the future?
Well, absolutely. The intellectual curiosity is the driving force, and as new technologies come along, it's that intellectual curiosity that will keep you in the game. But the two things to look out for, I'd say, number one, steady state of improvement in automation. We are continuing to automate some of this stuff. I'm really surprised at what we have not yet automated. I'm shocked that extract, transform, and load is still so painful. And come on, guys, where's my artificial intelligence to help take care of some of that? But automation in terms of triggers, automation in terms of self-correction. Just saw a really interesting product from HubScan called Tag Defender that can fix broken tags on the fly. That's the fun kind of stuff. That will continue. And then every now and then, part two is step change. And the step change that's coming along is machine learning. I encourage everybody to read up on it, to understand it. You do not need to become a data scientist overnight. You don't have to go back to school and get a PhD in computer science and machine learning, but be very aware of what it is, what it's capable of, because you will be asked when should it be applied to a problem. And you should be able to say, oh, this is something we can just fix with automation, or hey, this is a big, hairy problem and machine learning might be something really worth testing. So, be the one who is intellectually curious to bring it in, try it out, and run the tests on it to see how valuable it can be. So between machine learning and just good old-fashioned automation, I say that's for 2 years. As for 5 years, yeah, that's just science fiction. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Will we be seeing machine learning and automation in upcoming eMetrics agendas?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and well, we're looking forward to it. Jim, before, I know, Eric, we're out of time, but there's one quick question from Steve here. Jim, maybe you can answer it quickly if you don't mind. How does an analyst get better at creating hypotheses? What sources or sites would you recommend?
There's two people I'm going to point you to. One, there's some great stuff written and PowerPoint presentations by Tim Wilson. So look those, if you Google Tim Wilson and hypotheses, I'm sure they'll pop up. The other one is an interesting blog post in the last month by Mo Kiss, M-O-E is her first name. Mo Kiss wrote an article on how to compare and contrast competing hypotheses. Very useful. So I will leave it at that.
All right. Yep. And we know Tim is a good friend, and I have a lot of respect for him. So yeah, great thing. Well, thank you so much, Jim. I know we're out of time. For those of you who are, we really thank you for being on this webinar. If you have additional questions for us or for Jim, email us at info@enor.com, or if you want to email or contact Jim directly, you have the information here, jstern@targeting.com or @JimStern. And obviously, encourage you to check out the eMetrics conference. I've personally learned a lot from eMetrics, where it goes way back then. When was the first conference, Jim?
2002.
Yep. Yeah, opportunity to network, to learn, to kind of check best practices, see what others are doing, where you're at. So yeah, I encourage you to check out eMetrics.org. And any final thoughts, Eric?
Thank you very much, Jim. It's been a pleasure, and a pleasure to have you on the webinar, an honor to have you in the book, GA Breakthrough. If you are interested in learning more about the book, go to www.gabreakthrough.com. Analytics Breakthrough Webinar Series. We'll have upcoming webinars. You can find out more about those. And again, to connect with Jim, here are Jim's coordinates. So thank you very much again, Jim. We really appreciate your participation and sharing your valuable perspectives with us and with all the webinar participants.
Absolutely my pleasure, and I want to do a quick shout out since I see a list of people who are listening today. Hello personally to Anne, Elena, and Kelly. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, excellent. Thank you all again. This has been recorded. We will share the recording on our site. You'll get an email notification with the link. Join us on the next set of webinars, and thank you so much. Again, have a great morning, great afternoon, or great evening, depending on where you are, and see you soon. Bye-bye.